Woman pulled through window by aliens in front of witnesses. The government tried to hide this for 35 years. November 30th, 1989. A woman is ripped from her bed by gray beings with black eyes. But here's what makes this case impossible to deny. Witnesses watched her floating through the sky in a beam of blue light. And two of those witnesses worked directly for the government. What you're about to hear was buried by authorities for decades. This isn't just another abduction story. This is the case that made even the most skeptical investigators stop and question everything they thought they knew about alien contact. Linda Napolitano was a regular housewife living on the 12th floor of a Manhattan apartment building. She had a husband, 2 kids, and absolutely no reason to fabricate what happened to her that November night. But what makes her case different from thousands of other abduction reports is this. She wasn't alone. That night started like any other. Linda went to bed around 11 p.m. Her husband was asleep beside her. The city lights filtered through their window overlooking the FDR Drive and the East River. Everything was normal. Everything was safe. Until it wasn't. Linda suddenly felt paralyzed. She couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't wake her husband sleeping right next to her. Then she saw them. 3 gray beings with large black eyes standing at the foot of her bed. Her mind was screaming, but her body refused to respond. The beings moved closer. Their movements were deliberate, calculated. They surrounded her bed, and suddenly she felt herself rising, floating. Her body passed through the closed window like it wasn't even there. The glass didn't break. The window didn't open. She just went through it. And this is where the story becomes undeniable. Linda was floating 12 stories above the ground, surrounded by these gray beings, inside a beam of brilliant blue light. She was moving toward a massive disc-shaped craft hovering above her apartment building. But she wasn't the only one seeing this. Down on the street, a car had stopped on the FDR Drive. 2 men inside the vehicle were staring up in absolute shock. These weren't random pedestrians. These were security agents working for a high-ranking political figure. They watched everything. The woman floating up, the beings around her, the craft. They documented it. And later, they would come forward with their testimony, risking everything to tell the truth. But there's more. A woman named Janet Kimball was driving across the Brooklyn Bridge that same moment. She saw the exact same thing. A woman in a white nightgown floating up into a UFO with gray aliens around her. She was so disturbed by what she witnessed that she had to pull over. Her hands were shaking too badly to drive. Think about that for a moment. Multiple independent witnesses, different locations, all seeing the same impossible event. The same woman, the same beings, the same craft. This wasn't mass hallucination. This wasn't a hoax. This was real. And the terror Linda experienced inside that craft would haunt her for the rest of her life. Inside the ship, the gray beings placed Linda on a cold metal table. The room was sterile, illuminated by a harsh white light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. She was still paralyzed, conscious but completely helpless. The beings moved around her with practiced efficiency. They were conducting some kind of examination. Medical instruments she couldn't identify. Devices that scanned her body with beams of light. And then came the most terrifying part. They began extracting something from her. A procedure she couldn't fully understand but could feel in every fiber of her being. The pain was unlike anything she had ever experienced. Not just physical pain, but something deeper. Something that touched her very soul. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The beings showed no emotion, no compassion. They were coldly methodical, treating her like a specimen, not a person. Time became meaningless. Minutes felt like hours. Hours might have been minutes. Then suddenly, she was back in her bed. Her husband still sleeping beside her. The window still closed. For a moment, she thought it might have been a nightmare, until she noticed the marks on her body. Strange indentations, bruises in unusual patterns, and a nosebleed that wouldn't stop. She stumbled to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. Her eyes were red and swollen. There was blood on her nightgown. This was no dream. But here's what makes this case absolutely explosive. Remember those two security agents who witnessed the abduction? They worked for Javier Pérez de Cuellar, the Secretary General of the United Nations at the time. Yes, you heard that right. The United Nations. These agents, known in the case files as Richard and Dan, couldn't stay silent. What they saw that night conflicted with everything they thought they knew about reality. Eventually, they reached out to Linda through UFO researcher Bud Hopkins. They needed to know they weren't losing their minds. They needed confirmation that what they witnessed was real. And Linda gave them that confirmation. She described details of that night that she couldn't possibly have known. Details that only someone who had actually been inside that craft could know. The agents were shaken. They had been trained to handle threats, to protect high-value targets, to remain calm under pressure. But nothing in their training prepared them for watching a woman get abducted by aliens right in front of them. And they weren't the only government officials who knew about this case. The investigation that followed reached the highest levels of power. Files were sealed. Witnesses were intimidated. Attempts were made to discredit Linda and everyone who supported her story. Now here's where it gets even more disturbing. Linda's abduction wasn't an isolated incident. She had been taken before, multiple times throughout her life. And the beings had told her something chilling during one of these encounters. They had been monitoring her since childhood. They had been conducting experiments on her for decades. She was part of something bigger, something she couldn't fully comprehend. Program, a study, an agenda that involved thousands of people across the planet. And she wasn't supposed to remember any of it, but she did. Do you believe in life on other planets? Does the idea that we're not alone in the universe terrify you or fascinate you? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, because what I'm about to tell you next will challenge everything you think you know about alien contact. The beings that took Linda weren't just interested in studying humans. They were creating something. Hybrids. Part human, part alien. Linda discovered this during one of her later abductions when the beings showed her a child. A little girl with features that were hauntingly familiar. The child had Linda's eyes, her nose, but there was something else. Something not quite human. The skin was too pale, the fingers too long, the eyes too large. The beings communicated telepathically with Linda, explaining that this child was hers, created from genetic material they had taken during previous abductions. Linda felt a complex mix of emotions: horror at the violation, confusion about what this meant, and strangely, an inexplicable connection to this child that was both hers and not hers. This is the reality that thousands of abductees face. Women who wake up pregnant with no explanation. Women who then have spontaneous miscarriages where no fetal tissue is ever found. Women who are later shown hybrid children and told these are their offspring. The Manhattan abduction case forced the world to confront an uncomfortable truth. This phenomenon is real. It's happening. And it's been happening for a very long time. Linda's case had the one thing most abduction cases lack: corroboration. Multiple independent witnesses, physical evidence, government officials involved. Couldn't be easily dismissed or explained away. The craft Linda was taken aboard was estimated to be at least 50 feet in diameter. Witnesses described it as having a smooth metallic surface that seemed to shimmer and change color. It made no sound, no engine noise, no disturbance of air. It simply hovered there, defying everything we understand about physics and aviation. Inside the craft, Linda described seeing other humans. Some appeared to be in the same paralyzed state she was in. Others seemed to be in some kind of trance, their eyes glazed over, moving mechanically like they were being controlled. Were these other abductees, or were they something else? Humans who had been taken so many times they no longer resisted? Or perhaps those hybrid children grown to adulthood? The implications are terrifying. The beings themselves communicated without speaking. Linda could hear their thoughts directly in her mind. They told her things. Things about the future. Things about their reasons for being here. Things she was instructed not to remember, but fragments remained anyway. They spoke of a coming change. A shift in human consciousness. They claimed to be preparing humanity for something. But preparing us for what? And why do they need to conduct these terrifying experiments to do it? Why the secrecy? Why the trauma? These are questions that Linda and thousands of other abductees struggle with every day. The government's response to Linda's case was telling. Instead of investigating the multiple witness accounts and the overwhelming evidence, they tried to suppress it. Files were classified. Witnesses were told to stay quiet. Linda herself received threatening phone calls warning her to stop talking about what happened. But Linda refused to be silenced. With the support of researcher Bud Hopkins, she went public. Her story was featured in books, documentaries, and television programs. And the more she spoke out, the more other abductees found the courage to share their own experiences. The Manhattan alien abduction wasn't just one woman's story. It was the story that validated thousands of similar accounts. It proved that this phenomenon isn't just happening in remote rural areas where there are no witnesses. It's happening in major cities, in apartments, in places where hundreds of people could potentially see. And sometimes they do. The physical evidence from Linda's case is compelling. Beyond the marks on her body, there was damage to her apartment that couldn't be explained. Electrical systems malfunctioned for weeks after the incident. Strange magnetic anomalies were detected in the area. And other residents in her building reported unusual lights and sensations that night, though most dismissed them as dreams until they heard Linda's story. The psychological impact on Linda was profound. She developed severe anxiety, fear of sleeping, fear of being alone. These are common symptoms among abduction survivors. The trauma is real even if society refuses to acknowledge it. And what about those government agents, Richard and Dan? Their lives were forever changed by what they witnessed. One of them eventually left his position. The weight of knowing this truth while being forced to maintain the official lie became unbearable. They had been trained to protect people. But how do you protect humanity from something that can pass through walls and disable anyone they choose? The military knows about this. They've tracked these craft on radar. Pilots have chased them. Jets have been scrambled. But these objects move at speeds that make our most advanced aircraft look like toys. They can accelerate instantly, make right-angle turns at impossible velocities, disappear and reappear miles away in seconds. This isn't speculation. This is documented in military reports that have been declassified. Reports that the government hoped would remain buried forever. But Linda's case was too public, too well documented, too many credible witnesses. It became impossible to deny, and that terrifies those in power more than the aliens themselves. Because once people realize the truth, once they understand that we are not the dominant intelligence on this planet, everything changes. Every assumption about our place in the universe crumbles. Now let's talk about the patterns. Linda's abduction fits a template that's been repeated thousands of times across the globe. The paralysis, the gray beings, the medical examination, the missing time, the physical marks, the trauma. These experiences are too consistent to be coincidence or mass hallucination. Something systematic is happening. These beings are following a protocol. They have an agenda, and we are part of it whether we consent or not. The hybrid program appears to be real. Too many abductees report the same experience. Being shown children that are partly theirs. Being told they're part of something important. Something necessary for the future. But whose future? Theirs or ours? Are they trying to save humanity? Or are they creating a new species to replace us? These questions keep researchers up at night. They keep abductees like Linda living in constant fear of the next encounter. Because the beings always come back. Once you're part of their program, you're never truly free. Linda reported subsequent abductions after the famous 1989 incident. Each time, the beings seemed to be monitoring her, checking on something, making sure the procedures they had performed were successful. The truth is, we don't know the full scope of what's happening. We don't know how many people are being taken. We don't know the ultimate goal of these experiments. What we do know is that it's real, it's widespread, and it's been covered up by governments around the world for decades. The Manhattan alien abduction case of 1989 ripped away the veil of secrecy. It proved that this phenomenon can't be hidden, can't be explained away. It demands answers. It demands acknowledgement. And it demands that we face an uncomfortable reality. We are not alone. We have never been alone. And the beings sharing this planet with us have capabilities far beyond our understanding. They can take us whenever they want. They can manipulate our memories. They can pass through solid matter. They can paralyze us with a thought. This is the nightmare that Linda Napolitano lived through and continues to live with every single day. And she's not alone. Support groups for abductees exist because this is happening to thousands of people. These are normal people. Teachers, lawyers, doctors, truck drivers, housewives. People from every walk of life. People who have nothing to gain and everything to lose by sharing their experiences. The stigma is real. The ridicule is constant. But the truth doesn't care about our comfort. The truth exists whether we accept it or not. And the truth is that humanity has been in contact with non-human intelligence for a very long time. Perhaps for all of human history. Ancient texts describe beings descending from the sky. Cave paintings show figures in what look like helmets and suits. Every culture on Earth has stories of sky people, star beings, gods from above. What if those weren't myths? What if they were memories? Generational trauma passed down through humanity's collective consciousness? Linda Napolitano's case forces us to confront these possibilities. It makes us question our assumptions about reality, about our place in the cosmos, about our future as a species. Because if they're creating hybrids, if they're manipulating human genetics, then our evolution is no longer entirely in our own hands. We're part of an experiment we didn't consent to. Lab rats in a cosmic study we can't comprehend. And that's the most terrifying part of all. Not that aliens exist, but that we're powerless against them. The investigation into Linda's case continues to this day. Researchers are still analyzing the evidence, still interviewing witnesses, still trying to understand the full implications of what happened that November night in Manhattan. And the more they dig, the more disturbing the picture becomes. This case isn't an anomaly. It's a window into a phenomenon that's far more extensive than anyone imagined. A phenomenon that suggests humanity has been under observation and possibly manipulation for centuries, perhaps millennia. So what can we do with this information? How do we process the reality that we're not alone and that the beings sharing our world with us have their own agenda? Some people find comfort in believing these beings are benevolent, that they're here to help us evolve, to guide us toward a better future. But Linda's experience doesn't support that comforting narrative. The beings who took her showed no compassion, no concern for her terror or pain. They treated her as a subject, not a person, as a means to an end, not as a sentient being with rights and dignity. This is the reality we must face, not the Hollywood version of Alien Contact where benevolent space brothers come to save us, but the darker reality where we're specimens in someone else's experiment, where our autonomy is an illusion, where beings with superior technology can violate us at will and we have no recourse, no protection, no way to stop them. The Manhattan alien abduction case is important because it's verified, it's documented, it's real, and it represents countless other cases that don't have the same level of corroboration but are no less real to the people who experienced them. If you've made it this far, you now know what governments have tried to hide. You know what Linda Napolitano lived through. You know that the beings are here. They're taking people. They're conducting experiments. They're creating hybrids. And they've been doing this for a very long time. This knowledge changes everything. It should change how we view ourselves, how we view our history, how we view our future, because we're not writing our story alone. We're co-authoring it with intelligences we barely understand. Share this video with someone who needs to know the truth. Subscribe to this channel because we're going to keep bringing you the cases that governments don't want you to see, the evidence that's been buried, the testimonies that have been suppressed. And together, we're going to piece together the real story of humanity's relationship with extraterrestrial intelligence. Comment below and tell us what you think really happened to Linda Napolitano. Was it a hybridization program? Were the beings conducting genetic experiments? Are they preparing humanity for something? Your voice matters. Your perspective adds to our collective understanding, and together, we'll uncover the truth. No matter how terrifying it might be, the Manhattan alien abduction isn't just Linda's story. It's a warning. It's evidence. It's proof that we need to take this phenomenon seriously, because it's not going away. It's accelerating. More sightings, more encounters, more abductions. The beings are ramping up their activities, and we need to be ready for whatever comes next. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and never stop questioning the reality they want you to accept, because the truth is far stranger and more terrifying than anything you've been told.